Good morning and welcome back to WorksheetCloud. My name is Mrs. Verger and we back to our grade 6 English lessons. So let's jump right in. Our overview for today, we always start with our daily starters. At this point, if you haven't got a pen and a piece of paper, please get one. Then we're going to look at newspaper articles and features and the difference. We're going to look at fact versus opinion. We're going to understand the structure of a newspaper article. And then we're going to look at headlines, and more headlines. And then there's a newspaper hunt, which you will be able to do on your own. And then we're going to create some old paper in which to write on. So let's jump right in. We're looking at our daily starter this morning, and you need to write an adjective for each letter of the alphabet. So this is where you pause, you take your pen and your piece of paper, write A to Z, and you write just one adjective for each. You'll find some of them quite difficult, perhaps like your X and your Z, but try anyway. And then we'll come back together and go through what I've got, and I hope you manage to find a few of your own. Right, we're back. So if you take a look at mine, I've got adorable, and we're going from left to right. Adorable, beautiful, caring, depressing, exciting, freaky, gigantic, hideous, interesting, jealous, kind, likable, marvelous, nervous, organized, pleasant, quirky, resilient, soggy, treacherous, unbelievable, vicious, weird, zennial, youthful, and zealous. Now, obviously, when I first did this, some of my words were a little bit boring, and so I had to work a little bit on them. And so I hope if this is your first bat at this exercise, which it is, maybe when you do it again later, you'll just adjust those words. So if you had a word like bad, I hope you made it a little bit more interesting. Find words that are alive, not dead words that we use all the time, like nice. Try to find different words that just describe whatever you're talking about a little bit better. And zennial is a word which refers to the giving of gifts to strangers, which I learned and I didn't know. I had to Google a word for X. So I hope you found some nice ones. Let's jump into our lesson today. So the difference between newspaper articles and features. So first of all, newspaper articles cover the basics of current events. They answer the questions who, what, where, how, and when. A feature article is longer and more in-depth than regular newspaper articles, and they cover one subject from multiple angles, and they're written in a more creative, entertaining format. So, but it's important to remember that both of these, the newspaper articles and the feature articles, demand the same level of research and reporting. So one is not easier than the other, but today we are looking at newspaper articles. Let's look at fact versus opinion. So facts are statements that can be proven. They can be true or false statements, but nonetheless they are true. Example, most trucks weigh more than cars. And then you've got opinions. They are statements that cannot be proven to be true. So they're really just your thoughts about something. For example, netball is the best sport and sushi is delicious. I put two of my favorites. My husband would definitely not agree that sushi is delicious because he doesn't like it. So do you see how that is an opinion as opposed to a fact? Then, if we look now to test yourself, so I want you to think about these 7 sentences, and you need to pause the video and decide for yourself, are they fact? So can they be proven to be true, or are they somebody's opinion? So pause the video, and all you have to do is write 1 to 7, and just put F for fact or O for opinion. And when we come back, we'll go through it again. Off you go. All right, let's see how you have done. So eating anything after brushing your teeth tastes awful. Not for everybody, but that is an opinion. Chicken that has not been cooked properly can cause salmonella. It can cause it. Doesn't always, but it can, and that is a fact that can be proven. Number 3, most parents do not give their children enough pocket money. That is an opinion. I know you probably think it's a fact, and you might want to chat to your parents about that one, but it is an opinion. Number 4, snakes are the ugliest animals. I would think so, but it's not a fact, it is actually an opinion. Number 5, trees are a renewable resource. They are, it can be proven. Number 6, books are always better than the movie. That is, to me, I think that's a definite one, but it really is only my opinion. Some people like to watch the movie, some people like to read the book first. it's completely up to you and your thoughts. And number 7, a solution is an answer to a question. Yes, that is true. It is fact. You can prove that. So let's jump in now to our newspaper article and the structure of a newspaper article. So if you look at the inverted triangle, that's well known, and it talks about the lead paragraph, and that includes the who, what, where, and when. It's called the 5 W's, and you'll see the other 5th one is over there. So your lead paragraph, who, what, where, when. Your background information is going to have interviews with witnesses, and that's where we use our direct and indirect speech, which we did in our previous lesson. And then it answers those questions. Why? Why did that happen? Whatever you're writing about. And perhaps it might even answer the question how. And then extra details. It's nice to know. You don't have to include them, but that's where your article, sort of what it will cover. So let's look at each one. So you've got your lead sentence, which is the first sentence, and it should grab and hook your reader right away. So it should answer those questions. Give me a little bit more about who, what we're talking about, so that I want to read the rest of the article. And then you've got the introduction, and I know sometimes it's part of the same thing, but your lead sentence and introduction can be the same thing, and it'll have which facts and figures ground your story. So you have to tell the readers where and when the story is happening, so that I go, okay, this is where it is, let me find out more. You can have an opening quotation, which is always great, because it'll give the reader a sense of the people involved and what they think. And that always helps. That always hooks you a little bit. If you know so-and-so said this or somebody said that, it helps to add to that start of your newspaper article. Then if we look at the next one, the main body, that is the heart of your story. So that's where quotations can come in as well, because we want to have witnesses who are part of the story. And that's sort of your meat. If you think of a hamburger, the main body is the burger part, the actual patty. And then your closing quotation or the conclusion, that's where you can have another quote if you want to, or it just is something that sums up the rest of the article in one go. So almost like a burger, you've got the bun at the top is your introduction and lead paragraph. You've got the meat in the middle, which is your main body of your story. And then the patty underneath is the conclusion. And obviously all the little bits in between, the relish and the onions and the lettuce, will add to the main body if you include those things like your quotations and other details. So let's look at one in particular. This one is actually lovely, and I really do encourage you to go onto Scholastic Kids Press. This is where I got it from. It's from the Kids Reporter's Notebook, and these are children who write articles and submit them to Scholastic, and then they put them on their website. So if it is something that you're interested in, you can actually go to Kids Press Scholastic, and you can find an information sheet on how to become part of this if you really want to. Obviously, there's a process, and your writing has to be really, really good. So let's take a look at this. We've got our headline, which is online learning during the pandemic. So it's something current. When it happened was, or when he wrote the article was on March the 27th, 2020. This is who it is by, and it's called the byline. So who wrote the article is the byline, and it's Truman J. Hamadi. And then we've got a picture of him. We know that it's him because there's a caption, and this is what you've always got to remember. If you're going to include a photograph, always have a caption telling the readers what the picture is about. So we know that it's Truman because at the bottom it says Truman has been taking online drawing classes with author and illustrator Jarrett J. K. And I'm not going to pronounce that surname. But there we go. So that's just the beginning part, your headline, when it took place, your byline, photograph and caption. The next part that we look at is the actual lead sentence with your introduction, and you can see here it's got a quote in it over there which we're going to read. So let's take a look. The threat of COVID-19, the disease caused by a novel coronavirus, has closed schools and businesses across the United States. Without classes, sports or other activities, kids are getting creative so that they can continue learning and staying entertained. Our classes are going online now, said Lucas, an 8th grader from Houston, Texas, so we won't get behind or have to make it up later. Other schools are encouraging independent learning until a plan can be made. my middle school teacher in Austin, Texas, is telling students to keep reading self-selected novels while she prepares a virtual classroom. And so let's take a look at that first paragraph, the leading sentence. So does it have your 5 W's? Who, what, where, when, why? And it can have the how. So let's take a look. Does it have who? Yes, we're talking about schools and businesses across the United States. That's the who. What are we talking about? We're talking about COVID-19, this coronavirus. Where is it taking place? Or where are we talking about? And we're talking about the United States. When, on the previous page, if I just go back, there we've got our date, which is the when, 27th of March. So this is right near the beginning in certain places. And then the why we might get to later in the actual article. So as you can see, they've included a quote, which is always lovely. So that's obviously Truman possibly phoned a friend or asked an 8th grader, how's it happening? What could you give me a quote? Could I interview about how you're dealing with this process? And so he put in about the classes going online. And it relates to the introduction about classes and schools being closed. Right, let's look at the next part. Take a look at your main body of your story, and that's the heart of your story. That's the hamburger that I spoke about, the actual meaty part. So reading, drawing, and dancing. In the interim, artists, authors, and organizations are offering online classes and resources to help educate and entertain kids while they're out of school. Scholastic Classroom magazines recently launched Learn at Home, a website with projects, stories, and activities on a range of subjects. As more and more teachers, students, and families around the world are affected by the coronavirus, our priority is to support them in the best way we know how, by providing them with rich stories and meaningful projects that will keep kids academically active, said Lauren Tarshis, a senior vice president and editor-in-chief at Scholastic. Sophia, 10, has been using the Scholastic site. It helps me keep learning, she said, and the stories are fun and interesting. Award-winning author and illustrator Jared J. Kay is conducting daily drawing lessons online so that kids can develop practical tools to tell stories through creativity. My sisters and I have been following along at home and love the art lessons. Other online classes have sprung up across the internet and include instructions in martial arts, dance, and musical instruments. I log in to take my ballet classes every day at the usual time until the studio is able to open again, says my sister, Elena, aged 50. So if we take a look at this, here we've got 3 additional quotes, which is always lovely because it helps us feel what other people are feeling. So there was the actual editor-in-chief, the one at Scholastic, which is nice because it helps relate to what the article is about, Scholastic providing additional resources. And then it's got his own sister, and then it's even got the author or the illustrator who then adds something else. And so all of these together just add a little bit more to what we're talking about, your main story. And then to end off, Truman ends off with his conclusion, making masks. During the pandemic, our house has been as busy as ever since both of my parents are working from home. We started a project to make fabric masks for healthcare workers who are running low on supplies. We all take turns cutting out, stitching, and ironing the fabric to make masks. This project can keep us busy and connected with our community, even if we can't be close physically. And so what a lovely way to end off, not just about how we are coping, but how we are helping our community. So a lovely end. Didn't use any quotes in that conclusion, which is fine. He didn't really need to. Lovely end, I thought. So now we move on to headlines. So we've looked at the structure of an article, and now we're going to look at headlines, and then we're going to move slowly towards you being able to write your own. So what do great headlines do? They grab the reader's attention. They create a bit of curiosity because you don't just want to read a headline. You want to read something and then want to read a little bit more. And it normally, or it can, give a preview of 1 or 2 of the 5 W's. So the who, what, where, why, and when. So let's take a look. I found this lovely website. and it's on the screen if you want to go there. And it was all about writing catchy headlines, and they gave some great ideas. So number 1, use numbers. Number 2, use emotional adjectives. So adjectives that sort of evoke an emotion out of you, that tries to get you to feel emotional about this headline. Something like effortless. So it feels like if you're looking at that headline and you're struggling with something, it'll grab you because it's almost like it's effortless. You don't even have to put in effort to get the results you want. Free. Who doesn't like something that's free? And essential. You have to have it. And so it might grab you in terms of you wanting to read what you need. Number 3, it can use the what, why, how, or when. Number 4, it must use unique reasons for what the reader can get out of the article. Because a lot of the times we want to read something that relates to us. And number 5, often headlines, whether we're talking about magazines or newspaper articles or even billboards, make an audacious or daring promise. So something of valuable, something that's valuable that we're going to get out. And so there's the formula at the bottom. Number or trigger word plus an adjective plus a keyword plus a promise is a great formula for writing great headlines. Right, let's move on. Let's try a headline as an example. So taking the subject bathing elephants. You could write an article that has the headline, How to Bath an Elephant, or Why I Love Bathing Elephants. It does grab your attention a little bit because who generally baths an elephant? Unless you a wildlife person and you work somewhere where you've got access to elephants and to bathing them. But if you use the formula, number or trigger word plus adjective plus keyword and promise, you could come up with something a little bit more catchy like this. 18 unbelievable ways you can bath an elephant indoors. So, do you see there the number or the trigger word, 18? The adjective, unbelievable. So you might want to read it because of that word. A keyword is the bathing the elephants. That's what you wanted to know. And indoors will catch you. And then there's a promise. You can actually bath an elephant indoors. So let's take a look at some of these headlines. Shooting hoops with hearts. We are going to do figurative language, but if you already know some of the figurative language, lovely use of alliteration, heart and hoops. And we want to maybe read this because shooting hoops with hearts. So we know it's something to do with basketball, but we might want to hear a little bit more. A friendly face at Friendship House. Again, alliteration. The friendly friendship. Face is not part of that, but we'll learn more about that when we do our figurative language. A friendly face at Friendship House. I'd love to read more because what is Friendship House and who's visiting there and helping out. And then bringing joy to kids. A lovely one. Who doesn't want to help out, especially during this time in lockdown and the pandemic? If we can help, even though we can't leave our homes. So all these 3 headlines were actually from that Scholastic program. So please go back to the other slides. In fact, I'm just going to go back quickly. So if we look here, there we go. Scholastic Kids Press. That's where I found those articles as well. And you can read the rest of those articles besides just the headlines on the Kids Reporter's Notebook. So let's go to the next one. These are some of the ones that I found now that are recent. Coronavirus. Now it's getting serious. That would have caught me because I think in the beginning, before we had lockdown, we were probably going, oh, how serious is this? Now I want to know the facts. Why is it getting serious? If we look on the left, meet the 103-year-old woman who has defeated coronavirus. Wow, I'd love to hear more about that. An inspirational story. Apparently, as we've read some of the articles saying that particularly very young children and very old people are susceptible to getting the disease and then not being able to survive it. So, lovely inspirational article. Live, new reality sets in as lockdown is extended. This is a matter of survival. So again, we'd want to know perhaps there's this is not going to just change suddenly. It's a new reality for us. This is a matter of survival. How are we going to survive the next couple of weeks? And then another one, no end to lockdown in sight. Why? We want to find out a little bit more. And then I love this one. Ellen DeGeneres, and obviously she's there in the picture, I just blocked her out. Ellen criticized after comparing mansion quarantine to jail. Wow. Not sure whether those are facts or not, but I wouldn't mind reading a little bit more to see how can she compare her beautiful house with all the money she has to being in jail. So that would catch my attention. So now let's put this into practice. So I'm wanting you to pause the video at this stage as soon as I'm finished talking and use that formula, number or trigger word plus adjective plus keyword plus promise, and create your own. If this was a developing story and this was blank over here, which it is, what would you fill in there? So I want you to create a catchy headline that matches the picture. So pause and just take a few minutes, see what you can come up with. Right, and this is where I miss being in a classroom where we could go around and see what you've come up with. Unfortunately, we can't. Let's look at the next one. Another lovely one, also taken from the Scholastic News website. Developing story, look at the elephant. Seems to be painting using the formula again. Pause the video. What kind of catchy headline could you match with this picture? Right, I hope that was a good one. And then our last one for today, obviously what we're experiencing, but it doesn't have to be about Corona because it's your own developing story, but it could, seem we have to sometimes wear masks, or most of the time wear masks when we go out, especially if you're doing something that you have to do, in other words, going to the doctor or something, or buying essentials. Using that formula, create another catchy headline. So pause and just be creative. Right, now that you've done that, I hope you've just played it a little bit around with some words. We will go over figurative language in one of our next lessons, and it'll give you some ideas as well. Right, I've put this up because sometimes it helps to have an article or to write an article first and then come up with a headline. I gave you pictures to try and get your brains working and to use your imagination. Here we've now got an article, and this article is about, and I'm going to just read a little bit about it. We've heard of artists becoming famous after launching themselves on YouTube, but a whole new sport being born off a video, that has to be a first. However, that is apparently how bubble football, a combination of soccer and zorbing, a sport that involves rolling downhill while encased in an orb, has gained popularity not just in its birth country of Norway, but also all across Europe. Okay, so it says there later on that the best part is that the sport was invented as a joke. Okay, wow, what kind of headline could you come up with? So pause for a minute, think about it, think about the words bubble, football, joke. What could you come up with? So pause and again, be as creative as you can. So just out of interest, right, so I don't know what you came up with. Maybe something about joke now becomes a reality. Did you use numbers maybe? Did you think of other ways that you could think of the word bubble and football being put together? I hope you managed to come up with something exciting. If we look at our next one, also another article, and it's sometimes easier, as I said, to create a headline. So if we look, and we just skim and scan quickly, it's 3 senior elephants that are quite old. There are their names, so it gives it a person quality to it. We sort of connect with them if they've got a name. They wanted to move them by plane, but now they've decided on driving. It's a 50-hour journey, several stops. That's what it's going to cost. They're moving because it's warmer weather and space in California, and also so that they can socialize. So if you use that formula again, number or trigger word plus adjective and keyword and promise, what could you come up with? So pause and then we'll come back together again. Right, so what I came up with, maybe costly but essential move, worth the cost, question mark. Sometimes asking a question can also be a great headline. Right, and then we come to a newspaper hunt. So this is where you can stop a little bit. If you've got a newspaper in the house, great. If you haven't, next time mom has to go up for one of those essential items or to the doctor, ask her to get a newspaper if they're available. And so you could then spend time searching for the following: the score of a sports game or match, a main headline, a crossword, and looking for all these things. What it does is it helps you get used to what a newspaper looks like and what it's made up of. So I love the idea. I really do encourage you to do it. And then we look at writing a newspaper article. So this is where you come in, and I am going to put this worksheet on WorksheetCloud for you, but coming up with your own story is important. So if you wanted to, and I'm just going to quickly skim back, if you wanted to use one of these pictures, so this developing story, I don't know what headline you came up with, or you want to use the elephant, or you want to use the mask, I want you to come up with your own story. And if we were in class, I would be going to do a first draft with you, looking at it with you, giving you some ideas. We can't do that, but I really encourage you to write your first draft, look at it, use a dictionary, find the spelling and the correct words or better words that you could use, and then you're going to write it in a neater draft. So I'm going to show you the process. So there would be your headline, and you could leave it out until the end. Byline, remember that's who wrote the article. Who is the article by? It's by you, your name and surname. These are just, this is your first draft as in brainstorming ideas. Who is the story about? Who does the story affect? What is the story about? So give lots of facts, and you can record as many as you like. You would also then write when did it take place, the date, where did it take place, give us a position, and then this is just important for you because as you're writing, think about your article. Why is your story important? Why should it matter to our community? So make sure that your article's got a reason for why people would want to read it. And then always remember to use quotes or statements. So you can interview, if you're specifically doing one, say about the coronavirus, you could interview your mom, you could phone your grandparents, you could phone a friend and add those into your newspaper article. And then obviously avoid your own opinion. Remember articles, that's why we did fact and opinion in the beginning. A newspaper article must be about facts that can be proven. And then write in the first person, so don't write I, write in the third person, and then use clear, simple language. So here's your checklist. Once you've written your article on a piece of paper, and it's just your first draft, it might have squiggles, you might have underlined words, changed words. That's what a first draft should look like. Use this checklist to go, is my headline catchy, bold, and big? Is my byline present that I wrote it? I have a lead sentence. My article covers the 5 W's. There's editing, so I've underlined spelling and corrected it and put in punctuation where the sentence was too long and I needed to put in a full stop. My photo, I've included a photograph. It has a clear caption. Good facts have been included. And I've read my story out loud and it makes sense. Sometimes when you read something out loud, you suddenly go, oh, I missed that, or I should have put in this. And then this is my favorite part. I love making stained paper. So yes, it's lovely to just go and buy it, but it's equally fun just to actually create it yourself. So what you need is a plain white piece of paper, and then you need to make a cup of black tea or coffee. And obviously the tea, you just need to let it strain a bit with the tea bag. You wait for the cup of coffee or the tea bag to cool down to lukewarm because you can't put your finger in there. And you dip some cotton wool into that liquid. So if it's the coffee, you're going to dip cotton wool in there, and you just squeeze a little bit out, and you're going to go over and over and over the paper. Just do it once that it's covered, and then wait. When it's dry, you can do another coat, depending on how light, if you look here, how light or dark you want it. If you've got the tea bag in, you've used a tea bag, that's even easier because you just squeeze the tea bag out and you use the tea bag as the cotton wool to spread over the paper. And then obviously, like I said, wait for it to dry in between each coat. You can do as many as you like, depends how dark you want it. And then once your paper is dry, you can even burn the edges, like this picture over here. Obviously, ask mom or dad to help you. You can also, as this picture has, you don't have to do any staining. You can actually just use a plain piece of paper, white piece of paper, and then just burn the edges. Completely up to you. I do hope that you're going to take the opportunity, even though I'm not around to help you and see it, do a first draft, check it, edit it, and then write it on your stained piece of paper and see what you come up with. Love it. If you can, it would be great that we've come to the end. If you can, instead of sending me questions, I wouldn't mind seeing some photographs of your final product of your newspaper article. That would be great. And then obviously, if you look at a newspaper article, do you see how it's written in columns? So it's not written like this. in a paragraph. It's sometimes got 3 columns. So look at your newspaper article, and you can even create your own one with the 3 columns. And I will be giving you, in your activities here, I will be giving you the format and the formula, and I will be giving you some ideas as to how to set out your newspaper article once you write it on your stained piece of paper. So the part 2 to follow was not from me, that's for you. If you are finished writing your article, I would love you to send me your final product. Just a photograph would be great, to Mrs. Fauger, and it's grade6@worksheetcloud.com. So that's the end of our lesson. I really hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you for watching Grade 6s, and you know where I will be, same time and same place tomorrow. Bye everybody.